The stillness before dawn over the River Thames. A lone bird calls across the mist. Somewhere deep within the sprawling red brick labyrinth of Hampton Court Palace, the most powerful man in England lies beneath a canopy of cloth of gold, his breath slow and steady. Outside his chamber, the entire machinery of Tudor court life holds its collective breath, waiting for the first stir of the king. This is not the Henry of fire and fury, of wives and wars. This is Henry the man, waking to another day of ritual, duty, and quiet monotony. Smart minds stick together, so if this clicked with you, do me a kind favor. Hit like, tap subscribe, share your biggest takeaway in the comments, and pass this on to a friend who'd appreciate it. Your support means the world, thank you. The year is 1540. The king is 48 years old, no longer the athletic golden prince who jousted in silver armor. His weight has swollen to nearly 30 stone. His once-stout skin is now marked by the red lines of old corselets. His hair, once the color of burnished copper, has faded to a thin white fuzz beneath his velvet cap. Yet within these stone walls, a choreography older than memory plays out every day. We will follow his footsteps from the first crack of light to the dying embers of the hearth. We will sit with him in his privy closet, walk with him through the great hall, and stand silently as the weight of a kingdom presses upon his broad, aching shoulders. The chamber is thick with silence. 4 yeomen of the guard stand motionless outside the heavy oak door, their halberds glinting dully in the torchlight. Inside, the king's bed is a mountain of feather mattresses, linen sheets, and a counterpane of crimson velvet embroidered with the royal arms. Henry sleeps on his left side, snoring softly, one thick arm draped over the bolster. His nightcap, a silk bonnet tied under his chin, has slipped slightly askew. A dog, a small spaniel named Perky, curls at his feet, twitching in a dream of rabbits. The fire in the great hearth has burned down to glowing embers. The room smells of wood smoke, beeswax, and the faint, sweet scent of the lavender strewn beneath the mattress. Beyond the door, the palace stirs. In the kitchens, the first ovens are being lit. In the stables, grooms whisper to the horses. In the chapel, the choristers are clearing their throats. But here in the king's inner chamber, all is still. The king's closest servant, the groom of the Stool, listens at the door. He wears a black velvet doublet and carries a silver bell. He is not permitted to enter until the king calls, but he must be ready. The entire court, from the Lord Chancellor to the lowliest scullion, waits upon this single moment. The waking of the king is the sun rising over England. A log shifts in the hearth. A tiny cascade of sparks climbs the chimney. The spaniel lifts its head, ears pricked. It whimpers once softly. Henry stirs. His hand moves, patting the empty space beside him. He is alone. Catherine Howard, his 5th wife, is only 19 and sleeps in her own apartments across the courtyard. It has been this way for months now. Henry grunts, a low, guttural sound that is part discomfort and part recognition of the new day. His eyes open. They are small, deep-set, and watery in the dim light. He blinks. He does not move. He simply stares at the tester ceiling above him, where the carved angels spread their wings. For a long moment, Henry is suspended between sleep and waking. His mind drifts back to a morning 40 years ago when he was a boy of 8, running through the orchards of Greenwich. He remembers the feel of damp grass under his bare feet. He remembers his mother, Elizabeth of York, laughing as she chased him. The memory fades. He is old. His legs ache. His left leg, in particular, throbs with a dull, constant pain. The ulcer there has not healed in 3 years. He shifts his weight, and the bed groans beneath him. The spaniel crawls up his side and licks his chin. Henry smiles, a rare, fleeting softening of his heavy features. He reaches for the bell rope on the bedside table. His fingers, thick and bejeweled even in sleep, find the tassel. He tugs once. The silver bell in the outer chamber rings with a clear, piercing note. The groom of the Stool straightens his back, places his hand on the latch, and pushes the door open. The hinge, oiled with goose fat, makes not a sound. He steps inside, his eyes fixed on the floor. The routine has begun. Henry the king, for this first moment, is merely Henry the man. But even so, the ritual demands absolute reverence. The groom approaches the bed and drops to one knee. He does not speak until the king acknowledges him. Henry grunts again. The groom rises. He walks to the window and draws back the heavy curtains. A pale grey light filters into the room, revealing the rich tapestries on the walls, the gilded candlesticks, the polished oak chests. Through the diamond-paned window, we see the mist over the gardens. The gravel paths are wet with dew. A gardener is already at work, trimming the yew hedges. The world is waking, but it wakes only for the king. The next hour is a symphony of careful, deliberate actions. The groom brings a ewer of warm water and a silver basin. Henry sits up with a great effort, swinging his legs over the side of the bed. His feet are swollen. His toes are curled and painful. He rests his hands on his knees and takes a slow breath. The groom places the basin on the floor and gently lowers the king's feet into the warm water. Henry sighs. The relief is immense. He closes his eyes. He lets his mind wander as the groom works the water over his ankles, massaging the aching tendons. Breakfast, such as it is, will not come for another 3 hours. Before that, there is dressing, praying, and the first audience of the day. The king's attendants enter with a washstand, a mirror, and a linen cloth. They are careful to avoid his gaze. Henry removes his nightcap. His scalp is pale and thin. He runs a hand over it. He remembers the weight of his hair, the way it used to curl when he was young. Now there is only skin and a few stray wisps. He allows himself a brief moment of self-pity. Then he dismisses it. He is still the king. He is still Henry. The washing is a careful, unhurried affair. The groom holds a bowl while a page pours rosewater over the king's hands. Henry washes his face, his neck, the thick folds of his chest. He dries himself on a soft towel. He is not ashamed of his body, but he no longer looks at himself in the mirror. He knows what he has become. The groom produces a fresh linen shirt, so fine that the weave is almost transparent. Henry raises his arms, and the groom slips the shirt over his head. The fabric settles against his skin. It is cool and smooth. The dressing proper begins. 2 more servants enter. They bring the king's doublet, made of purple velvet slashed with cloth of gold. It is a monumental piece of clothing, designed to accommodate his girth. It has hidden laces at the sides that can be tightened or loosened as needed. Henry stands, supported by the groom. He braces his hands on a sturdy stool. The servants lift the doublet over his head and settle it on his shoulders. They begin to lace the sides, pulling the cords gently but firmly. Henry grunts. The laces are pulled tighter. He feels the familiar constriction around his ribs. It reminds him that he is alive. Next comes the coat, a long, sleeveless garment of ermine-trimmed crimson velvet. It hangs from his shoulders to his knees. The ermine tails brush against his calves. Then the collar of the Order of the Garter, a heavy circlet of gold set with sapphires and diamonds, is placed around his neck. It catches the light from the window. Henry touches it with one finger. It is a reminder of his father, of his brother Arthur, of all the ghosts that haunt the throne. He does not dwell on them. There is no time for ghosts in the morning. A page brings the king's walking stick. It is made of ebony, tipped with a golden orb. Henry takes it in his right hand. He taps the floor once. A signal. The groom opens the inner door and the king proceeds into the presence chamber. The room is already full. Courtiers, ambassadors, clerics, and soldiers stand in a horseshoe formation. They bow as Henry enters. He moves slowly, leaning on his stick, his heavy gait marking his passage across the polished floor. He acknowledges no one directly. He is the center of the universe, and the universe must merely wait for him to speak. He reaches his throne. It is a carved oak chair with a velvet canopy. He sits. The cushion beneath him is thick and soft. He settles his weight carefully. A courtier steps forward to present a petition. Henry does not even glance at it. He nods and the groom takes the paper. The courtier retreats. This is the ritual of the morning audience. It is brief, pro forma, a mere acknowledgement that the world turns on Henry's permission. After the audience, the king signals for his chaplain. It is time for morning mass. Private chapel is adjacent to the presence chamber. Henry walks the short distance, leaning on his stick and on the groom's arm. The candles are lit. The incense smoke curls in lazy ribbons. The choir begins a slow, melodic chant. Henry kneels on his prie-dieu, the velvet cushion soft under his swollen knees. He bows his head. He recites the Pater Noster in Latin, his voice a low murmur. This is the only time of the day when Henry is truly silent, truly still. The rest of the world fades. For a few minutes, he is just a sinner asking for mercy. The music washes over him. The priest raises the host. Henry crosses himself. The ritual is as regular as the tide. Mass concludes. The king rises, his knees popping painfully. The groom is there to steady him. Henry returns to the presence chamber where the Privy Council is now assembled. The councillors are the most powerful men in England. The Duke of Norfolk, Thomas Cranmer, the Lord Privy Seal. They stand before a long table covered in documents. Henry takes his place at the head of the table. He does not sit. He stands, leaning on the back of his chair, his great belly pressing against the carved wood. It is his habit to stand during council meetings. Sitting makes him sleepy, standing keeps him sharp. First item of the day is always the royal accounts. The treasurer presents a roll of parchment. Henry scans it with a practiced eye. His sign manual is required on each expenditure. He takes a quill, dips it in ink, and scrawls his signature. The movement is labored. His hand trembles slightly. The clerk who records the signing notes the date, the hour, the witnesses. There is a specific procedure for every signature. Nothing is left to chance. Henry signs 20 documents in rapid succession. Each one represents a small piece of his power. Next, the council discusses the situation in the north. The border with Scotland is restless. Raids have been reported. Henry listens, his face impassive. He asks a few questions. His voice is surprisingly high for such a large man, a thin, reedy tenor. He gives his orders in clipped sentences. No one argues, no one dares. The decisions are recorded. The council moves on. The business of ruling is often tedious, a matter of grain prices and roads and trade tariffs. Henry's eyes grow heavy. He blinks. He forces himself to concentrate. A dispatch from France arrives. The ambassador is waiting in the outer chamber. Henry orders him brought in. The ambassador bows low, his feathered cap sweeping the floor. He delivers a lengthy oration from his master, King Francis. Henry listens, his fingers tapping on the table. He then delivers his response, a careful balance of flattery and threat. The ambassador withdraws. Henry has done his duty. The council meeting continues for another hour. By the end, Henry is tired. His leg throbs. He dismisses the councillors and retreats to his privy chamber. The privy chamber is a small wood-paneled room with a single window overlooking the river. It is his sanctuary. Here he can remove his heavy coat and rest his aching feet on a velvet stool. He calls for a cup of ale. The ale arrives in a silver tankard. He drinks deeply, the foamy liquid running down his chin. He wipes it with the back of his hand. He is alone, save for a single page who stands by the door. Henry reaches for a lute lying on a chest. He strums a few chords. The music is simple, a melody he composed himself in the spring of his youth. He hums along, his voice a soft drone. The morning wears on, the sun climbs higher. Through the window, Henry can see the servants scrubbing the steps of the courtyard. He can hear the distant clatter of the kitchen. The smell of roasting meat begins to drift up. It is nearly time for dinner, not the evening supper, but the main meal of the day, served at 11 in the morning. Tudor nobles eat early. Henry's appetite is legendary. He begins to feel the first pangs of hunger. He sets aside the lute and rings the bell. It is time to move to the Great Hall. The Great Hall of Hampton Court is a cavern of stone and oak. Tapestries hang from the walls, depicting scenes from the Old Testament. The long trestle tables are covered in white cloth. Hundreds of courtiers are already seated, awaiting the king's arrival. Henry enters through a door at the far end of the hall. The trumpets sound. Everyone rises. Henry walks the length of the hall, his slow, ponderous tread marking the beat. He reaches the dais, where his table is set apart from the others. It is a single, smaller table, covered with a cloth of gold. His chair is the only one with arms. He sits. The chief steward steps forward and presents the ceremonial silver platter. On it is a roasted swan, its feathers replaced after cooking, its beak gilded. Henry surveys the dish. He nods. The carver steps in, a sharp knife in his hand. He slices the breast with surgical precision. He places a portion on the king's golden plate. A servant brings bread, manchet loaves of fine white flour. Another brings wine, a deep red burgundy. Henry begins to eat. He eats with gusto, tearing at the meat, dipping the bread in the rich gravy. He does not speak while eating. It is a rule he enforces. The courtiers eat their own meals, but they watch the king. Every move he makes is noted. He drinks. He wipes his mouth. He gestures for more. The rhythm of the meal is as predictable as the tides. After the swan, a pike from the Thames. After the pike, a venison pasty. After the pasty, a tart of almond and honey. Henry clears his plate each time. His appetite is immense, fueled by both luxury and the boredom of his routine. He takes a final sip of wine and signals the end of the meal. The tables are cleared. The king rises. The afternoon is dedicated to exercise, or what passes for exercise in the king's current state. He rides, but he cannot mount a horse unaided. A special wooden hoist, a sort of makeshift crane, is used to lift his bulk into the saddle. The grooms bring the contraption to the palace steps. Henry positions himself on a platform. The pulleys are cranked. He rises slowly, his great body suspended in the air. He is swung over to his waiting horse, a massive destrier bred for strength. He is lowered into the saddle. The horse shifts its weight, accustomed to the burden. Henry takes the reins. He is ready. The hunting party sets out. There are 30 mounted men, hounds and falconers. They ride through the deer park, a vast expanse of woodland and meadow. The pace is a slow walk. Henry cannot gallop. He can barely trot, but the illusion of the hunt is maintained. The hounds are loosed on a scent. They bay and crash through the undergrowth. Henry watches from a hilltop. A deer is brought down. The dogs tear at the carcass. Henry observes with a detached interest. He is tired. His leg is screaming. He signals to return. Back at the palace, Henry retires to his chamber for a brief rest. The afternoon sun slants through the windows. He lies on a daybed, his body sinking into the cushions. A musician plays a soft melody on a rebec. Henry closes his eyes. His breathing deepens. He sleeps for an hour, a shallow, fitful sleep filled with fragments of old memories. He wakes with a start. A servant is there, holding a cup of sweet wine. Henry drinks. He feels slightly refreshed. Next comes the entertainment. Henry loves music, dancing, and games. A troupe of musicians is brought into the great hall. They play lively tunes and the young courtiers dance. Henry watches, his foot tapping to the rhythm. He used to dance. He was once the finest dancer in Europe. Now he can only observe. He calls for a game of cards. He plays with his chief advisors. He is a skilled gambler and he enjoys the sharp competition. The stakes are high. He wins more often than he loses. Another item on the daily schedule, the signing of death warrants. It sounds dark, but it is part of the job. Henry's secretary brings a stack of documents. Some are pardons, some are executions. Henry reads each one, or at least pretends to. He signs them with a flourish. The ink dries, the fate of men is sealed. Henry does not dwell on it. He is the law. He moves the papers aside and calls for his fool, Will Somers. The fool enters, jingling his bells. He tells a series of jokes, some crude, some clever. Henry laughs. He laughs so hard that his body shakes. The fool is one of the few people who can make him forget his troubles. Evening falls, the light softens, the candles are lit in every room. Henry makes his way to the chapel for evening prayer. This service is shorter than the morning mass. The choir sings a beautiful anthem. Henry kneels in silence. He says his prayers. He asks for peace, for health, for the success of his wars. He crosses himself and rises. The day is drawing to a close. He returns to his private apartments where the grand supper is waiting. Supper is a more intimate affair than dinner. Only a few select guests are invited. Henry dines on roasted capon, quince marmalade, and a soft cheese. He drinks a glass of Malmsey, a sweet wine he has grown fond of. He discusses politics with his guests. He discusses religion. He is a learned man trained by the best scholars of his day. He debates with his clerics. He knows his theology. He corrects them if they err. He is always right. His word is final. The meal concludes. The guests depart. Henry is alone again. He removes his outer garments, his hands fumbling with the laces. His servants help him. They undress him layer by layer, first the coat, then the doublet, then the shirt. He stands in his stockings and linen. The groom brings a clean nightshirt, a simple linen shift. Henry pulls it over his head. He sits on the edge of the bed. He removes his stockings himself. The sores on his legs are dressed with a salve of herbs. The groom wraps the bandages carefully. Henry winces. It hurts, but he is accustomed to the pain. He lies back on the pillows. The spaniel jumps up and settles on his feet. The groom draws the curtains around the bed. The candles are extinguished one by one. The room descends into a soft, shadowed darkness. Henry stares at the canopy above him. He hears the quiet sounds of the palace, the creak of a door, the footsteps of a guard, the hoot of an owl from the garden. He thinks of Catherine. He thinks of Anne. He thinks of Jane, the one who gave him his son. His eyes grow heavy. The weight of the day, the weight of his body, the weight of the crown all press down on him. He surrenders to sleep. The last candle is snuffed by the groom. The king lies alone, his vast bed a floating island in a sea of darkness. Tomorrow the routine will begin again, exactly as it has for decades. The kingdom will wait, the food will be prepared, the music will play. And Henry will wake, as he always does, to the gentle tug of history. We fade to black with the soft sound of a lullaby played on a lute, and the weight of 600 years settles around us like a heavy blanket. The routine was the iron cage of Henry's existence, but within that cage he found a strange comfort. Each day was a known quantity. He could not control his health, his wives, or his enemies, but he could control the schedule. The morning prayers, the council meetings, the hunt, the feast, the cards, the music. It was a fortress against chaos. It was the armor he wore even when he was naked. The Tudor court was a machine, and Henry was its engine. He turned, day after day, grinding the grain of history into flour. There is a particular melancholy to these rituals. The king who once conquered France now struggles to conquer the stairs. The athlete who once ran, leaped, and danced now shuffles from chair to chair, yet the pageantry never ceased. The courtiers still bowed, the cooks still baked, the choristers still sang. It was a beautiful, hollow performance, and Henry, trapped in the leading role, played his part with a dignity born of desperation, for in the end, routine was all he had left. Consider the servants who moved through these rooms, the nameless hundreds who rose before the king and slept after him, the scullions whose hands were raw from scrubbing pots, the grooms who shoveled manure from the stables, the seamstresses who mended the king's vast wardrobe. They were invisible, but they were essential. The king's routine was their routine. Their lives were spent in service to his comfort, and yet history has forgotten them. We see only the king enthroned in velvet. But the kingdom was built on calluses and bones. Henry's daily meal consumed the labor of an entire village. The bread he ate required a day's work in the fields. The wine he drank came from across the sea. The beef on his plate was the life of a steer. The tapestry on his wall represented a year's work for a weaver, and Henry accepted it all as his due. He never questioned it. It was the natural order, as fixed as the sun in the sky. He was the sun, and all else orbited around him. But as the years wore on, the orbit grew shorter. The king's world shrank. He could no longer ride to the hunt. He could no longer stand through the mass. He could no longer dance. His daily routine became a series of diminished acts. He stayed in his chamber. He received visitors in bed. He ate lighter meals. He listened to music for hours, his eyes closed. The routine was a comfort, but it was also a prison. He was the richest, most powerful man in England, and he could not leave his own room. In the final years, Henry's routine was performed almost entirely in his bedroom. The council came to him. The musicians played in the corridor. The food was brought to his bedside. He signed documents on a leather writing box balanced on his knees. He was still the king. He was still feared, but he was also a prisoner of his own flesh. His routine had become a death watch, a slow, stately march toward the inevitable, yet even then he refused to change. He was Henry. He would die as he had lived, surrounded by ritual and velvet. Smart minds stick together, so if this clicked with you, do me a kind favor, hit like, tap subscribe, share your biggest takeaway in the comments, and pass this on to a friend who'd appreciate it. Your support means the world, thank you. And so we leave him, we step back from the bed, we close the door, the candlelight flickers in the corridor, outside the world sleeps. The Thames flows silently past the palace walls, the moon rises over the gardens, the routine will begin again at dawn, it always does, but for now there is peace. A deep, ancient peace that settles over the stone and the mortar, over the bones of kings and the dust of servants. Good night, Henry. Good night, England.